Welcome to the Southeastern North Carolina radio reading service, a United Way partner agency. We are located on the campus of Fayetteville State University, and our signal is carried by WUNC Chapel Hill. Today is the 19th of October 2017. It's Thursday morning. It's 10 o'clock. And your radio hosts today are Clark and
Nancy.
And we will be reading the news for today's edition of the Fayetteville Observer.
We're going to begin today with our weather. This again is Thursday, October 19th, 2017 from the Fayetteville Observer. And boy, this week has gone by fast, hasn't it, Clark?
It sure has.
All right, for today we're going to have a high of 77. A low of 48 degrees tonight. Pleasant with plenty of sunshine. And Friday, have a high of 79, a low of 51, nice with plenty of sunshine. Saturday looked good, high of 79, low of 55, few clouds, partly sunny. Sunday, high of 79, a low of 61. Beautiful, a beautiful Sunday day with partial sunshine. And Monday, we will have a couple of afternoon showers. We need them by then. High of 79 and a low of 64. Now I'm going to go to Chick and see what Chick has to say. Holding steady. After temperatures dipped into the 30s in some spots on Wednesday, the Cape Fear region should see conditions moderate somewhat. We'll still need jackets for the morning commute, though highs should ease back into the 70s with lows staying in the 40s tonight. Now you can follow Chick Jacobs online at FO, that's for Fayetteville Observer, /weather on Twitter. There's the weather.
Today in history. Today is Thursday, 19 October 2017. This is the 292nd day of 2017. There are 73 days left in this year. And today's highlight, on the 19th of October 1987, the stock market crashed as the Dow Jones Industrial Average plunged 508 points, or 22.6% in value, its biggest daily percentage loss, and to close at 1,738 in what came to be known as Black Monday. Today in history, in 1216, John, King of England, died more than a year after affixing his royal seal to the Magna Carta, or what is it's normally called the Great Charter. Today in history, in 1781, British troops under General Lord Cornwallis surrendered at Yorktown, Virginia, as the American Revolution neared its end. And on today's date in history, 1789, John Jay was sworn in as the first Chief Justice of the United States. On today's date in history, in 1864, Confederate Lieutenant General Jubal A. Early's soldiers attacked Union forces at Cedar Creek, Virginia. The Union troops were able to rally and defeat the Confederates. On today's date in 1914, the U.S. Post Office began delivering mail with government-owned cars as opposed to using contracted vehicles. And lastly, on today's date, in 1936, H.R. Eakins of the New York World Telegram beat out Dorothy Kilgallen of the New York Journal and Leo Kieran of the New York Times in a round-the-world race on commercial flights that lasted 18½ days. Today's local celebrity birthday is Lou McPherson and John Kroom. Happy birthday, Lou, and happy birthday, John. And other birthdays, author John Le Carre, he's 86. Artist Peter Max is 80. Author and critic Renata Adler is 80. Actor Michael Gambon is 77 years old. Actor John Lithgow is 72. Feminist activist Patricia Ireland is 72. Singer Jeannie C. Riley is 72. Rock singer-musician Patrick Simmons of the Doobie Brothers, he is 69 years old today. Talk show host Charlie Chase is 65. Rock singer-musician Carl Wallinger of World Party is 60. Singer Jennifer Holliday is 57. Boxer Evander Holyfield is 55 years old today. Host Ty Pennington of the TV show Extreme Makeover Home Edition, he is 53 years old. Rock singer-musician Todd Park Mower of the Big Head Todd and the Monsters, he is 52. Actor John Favreau is 51. Amy Carter, she's 50. South Park co-creator Trey Parker is 48. Comedian Chris Kattan is 47. Rock singer Pross Michael of the Fugees is 47. Actor Omar Gooding is 41. Country singer Cindy Thompson is 41. Writer-director Jason Reitman is 40. Actor Benjamin Salisbury is 37. Actress Gillian Jacobs is 35. Actress Rebecca Ferguson is 34. Rock singer Zach Barnett of the American Authors, Zach is 31 today. Singer-actress Ciara Renee of the TV Legends of Tomorrow is 27. And wrapping it all up is actress Hunter King, and that person, or actor, or she, actress Hunter, is 24.
All right. Now here's a mystery. Going to live wire from the Observer staff. Missing QVC host has a good reason. Motherhood. Question. I watch QVC a lot. There is a host named Sean who seems to have done something to her face. She does not look like the same person. I know this is not really nice to ask, but she was out and came back, and now her voice is the same, but her face has changed. What has happened? From E.C. in Fayetteville. Answer. In a word, motherhood. Sean Gillinger has been playing with a new hairstyle, according to QVC viewers, going to a simpler look for good reason. She took some time off this summer from her duties at QVC as she and her husband, Joe, adopted a baby girl, Jagger Jude. She apologized for her absence on the blog she keeps last June. This is what she wrote. Hi, friends. I'm sorry I've been suddenly and mysteriously MIA. This weekend was supposed to be my 10-year anniversary show on QVC, and only something really big would have had me missing that. Today, Father's Day, seemed like the perfect time to share what that is. Today, Joe has one more reason to celebrate being a dad. Jagger Jude, born Friday, June 9th in California. Joe and I are out here adopting a baby girl. She is perfect, and a long dream come true. God is so good. His ways are so perfect. I won't be seeing you on Q for most of the summer. Now, what does Chick say? Livewire seeks to answer questions of general interest and consumer topics. Initials are used to identify questioners when the names are given. Contact Livewire at livewire@fayeobserver.com, or you may call Livewire at 486-3516.
And for your public safety today, in Cumberland County, there were several arrests made. Corey Alexander Elliott, age 23, of the 200 block of Eleanor Avenue, was charged Wednesday with 2 counts of misdemeanor possession of a controlled substance and 1 count each of maintaining a drug vehicle or dwelling and misdemeanor possession of drug paraphernalia. Corey Alexander Elliott's bail was set at $12,500. Jose Antonio Rivera, age 16, of the 3200 block of Ansley Drive in Hope Mills, was charged Wednesday with larceny of a motor vehicle and possessing a stolen motor vehicle. Jose Antonio Rivera's bail was set at $10,000. Clinton Nathaniel Johnson, age 30, of the 1700 block of Gibson Street, was charged Wednesday with habitual larceny. Clinton Nathaniel Johnson's bail was set at $5,000. And the break-ins in the local area, Whitehead Road, reported at 6:04 p.m. Tuesday that coins, a dental partial plate, and a jar was taken. On Ransom Street, reported at 4:11 p.m. Monday, electronics and a miter saw was taken. Pennystone Drive, it was reported at 11:16 a.m. on Monday, a dome living room light and a door knob were taken. And in Parkton, at Lake Upchurch Drive, it was reported at 6:11 p.m. on Monday that a television was taken. And in Godwin, on Godwin Falcon Road, it was reported a theft at 9:45 a.m. on Monday that a computer hard drive was taken. And lastly, a vehicle break-in at Butterfly Court. It was reported at 6:54 a.m. and it's kind of dark out there still now at 6:54 a.m. Money was taken, credit card was taken, a driver's license was taken, and the insurance card was taken in that vehicle break-in on Butterfly Court. And I'd like to say also that a Fayetteville man was charged with rape and a kidnapping. A Fayetteville man wanted for a federal probation violation is now accused of raping a woman. Horace Edward Butcher III,
Goodness.
yes, age 53, of the 3200 block of Rogers Drive, is charged with 2 counts of first-degree rape and 1 count of first-degree kidnapping. Edward Butcher III is accused of raping the woman on the 22nd of August of this year, according to his arrest warrants. Butcher was arrested Wednesday on the 400 block of Johnson Street in Aberdeen, according to the arrest documents. No other information was given about Edward Butcher III, and his bail was set at $500,000. And finally, in Hope Mills, a teen was charged with molestation. A 17-year-old boy is accused of molesting a 15-year-old girl while staying at her family's home, arrest warrants indicated. Amilcar Omar Patino, age 17, of the 1500 block of Rough Rider Lane in Hope Mills, was charged Wednesday with 2 counts each of statutory sex offense and taking indecent liberties with a minor. Amilcar Omar Patino has not lived at his mother's home on Ireland Drive in several weeks and has been staying with his friends, according to court documents. An additional note here states that he also dropped out of Southview High School, and his bail was set at $200,000.
All right, Clark, do you have a jar of peanut butter with you?
Not with me, but I have one at home.
Well, I'm going to tell you what you
Both
can...
creamy and crunchy.
Good, you're going to need it. It's time for the Peanut Butter and Jelly Campaign. North Carolina Guardian Ad Litem program is collecting plastic jars of peanut butter and jelly through January 17th for distribution to local food banks and to raise awareness about what it does. Volunteers with the program advocate for abused and neglected children in the court system. Last year, Cumberland County's Judicial District 12 served 1,127 children and held more than 6,200 hearings. To become a volunteer, go to volunteer4gal.org. Drop off your food items at the agency's office in Room 2 on the lower level of the Cumberland County Courthouse on 117 Dick Street. Number 2, now listen up everybody, there's going to be a parade tomorrow. Homecoming Parade. Fayetteville State University Homecoming Parade is Saturday at 10 a.m. It will start on Hillsborough Street, travel along Moore Street, and go then on Murchison Road to the FSU campus where we're sitting right now. And the homecoming football game is at 2 p.m. The parade has 4 grand marshals this year. Senora Diggs Davis of Poughkeepsie, New York, and a member of the class of 1964. Dr. Clarence Lloyd of Greensboro, and a member of the class of 1965. And Fayetteville Police Chief Gina Hawkins and Sergeant Renee Lockhart of the Raleigh Police Department. And 3 martial artists. Listen up. The Chinese martial artists and acrobats of Taiyin will perform today at 7:30 p.m. at Givens Performing Arts Center at the University of North Carolina at Pembroke. Now, tickets are only $31 for adults and $16 for children. If you'd like to have more information about the martial artists, please call 910-521-6361.
Nancy McCleary, a Fayetteville Observer writer, has written 3 little snippets of information that you will find interesting. A driver was killed in a crash has been identified in Lillington. The Highway Patrol has identified the man who was killed Tuesday morning when his car collided head-on with a tractor-trailer on North Carolina Highway 210 South in Harnett County. James Lawrence Yarez, age 55, of Angier, was driving a Hyundai passenger car that was traveling south about 7:35 in the morning when his car crossed the center line and collided with a tractor-trailer that was driven by Gary Faircloth, age 61, of Red Springs. The truck is registered to S&W Ready Mix Concrete. So I would guess that this driver and his passenger car collided with a concrete truck.
Oh my!
Yeah, that's what it sounds like here. And the wreck happened about 5 miles south of Lillington, according to State Trooper Ricky Johnson. Next, a wreck claims the life of a firefighter. In Lillington, once again, a Harnett County man who worked as a firefighter in Fuquay Varina was killed early Monday in a single vehicle crash on Christian Light Road, said the Highway Patrol. The wreck happened at about 2:30 a.m., according to a report filed by State Trooper J.R. Benson. Chris Smith, age 36, of Fernway Circle, was traveling west when his 2004 Dodge Ram pickup truck ran off the right side of the road. Chris Smith overcorrected, and it caused the truck to run off the road and overturn. Chris Smith, who was not wearing his seatbelt, was partially ejected, and speed was a factor, the report said, but no estimated traveling speed was given. And the last snippet of information for you, written by Nancy Cleary, is that a small fire burned the back porch of a home in the Bordeaux neighborhood just off Owen Drive near the Cape Fear Valley Medical Center, the Fayetteville Fire Department said. The fire was at 526 Terry Circle, and it was reported At 12:44 p.m. Wednesday, a fire department news release said smoke was visible at the back of the one-story brick home when firefighters arrived. The fire was contained to the back porch and caused damage that was estimated at $2,000. There were no injuries and no one was displaced. The house is owned by David B. and Diane M. Alabaster of Fayetteville, according to Cumberland County tax records.
Okay. Well, did you know that early voting starts today, Clark?
Yes, it does.
So here's what you need to do, what you need to know to do your civic duty. Can't want until November 7th. I think that's can't wait. Can't wait until November 7th. You can cast your ballot early, starting this morning in cities and towns across North Carolina. Can I still register to vote? Yes. You can do same-day registration during early voting if you bring a document or an ID that lists your current name and address in Cumberland County. For questions, you can call your Board of Elections in Cumberland County. That number is 910-678-7733. What else is on the ballot? Hope Mills voters will decide whether to permit on-premises sales of malt beverages. Alcohol votes are also in Dublin County, in Bladen County, and Garland and Sampson County. Are party affiliations on ballots? No. Municipal races are nonpartisan. Is there an election where I live? This is the year for municipal elections. If you live in a city or town, chances you have a contested race on your ballot. In Cumberland County, voters have competitive mayoral races in Fayetteville, Hope Mills, Spring Lake, and Stedman. 8 of the 9 Fayetteville City Council districts have races, and voters in Hope Mills, Eastover, Spring Lake, Linden, and Stedman will choose candidates for their own town boards. Look for a full list of contested races in the region in our Voters Guide coming this Sunday in the Observer. When and where can I vote early? In Cumberland County, one-stop early voting is weekdays from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. today through November 3rd. There is one Saturday for early voting, November 4th from 9 to 1. The location is the Cumberland County Board of Elections, 227 Fountainhead Lane. Here are the schedules for surrounding counties. Early voting is done at the Boards of Elections. Harnett and Lee counties, 8 to 5 p.m. weekdays, 8 to 1 p.m. on November 4th. Polk County, 9 to 6 p.m. weekdays and 9 to 1 on November 4th. Moore County, 8 to 5 weekdays, 9 to 1 on November 4th. Robeson, 8:15 to 5:15 weekdays, 8 to 1 on November 4th. And finally, Sampson County, 8 to 5 p.m. weekdays, 10 to 1 p.m. on November 4th. So please go and do your civic duty and vote.
And in local and state, the headline here is water fountains disabled at 2 schools. State officials expected to take samples for Gen X test today. This article was written by Steve Devane. He is a staff writer for the Fayetteville Observer. State officials are expected to take water samples from 2 Cumberland County schools today, so they can be tested for a potentially harmful compound. The State Department of Environmental Quality told school officials Wednesday that they would test water from Alderman Road and Grays Creek Elementary Schools, according to Tim Kinlaw, who is the interim superintendent of Cumberland County Schools. State officials incorrectly said Tuesday that they would also be testing water at Grays Creek High School, which gets its water from the Public Works Commission. At this time, there are no concerns that public water provided by the PWC would need to be tested at any schools that are served by PWC, said Tim Kinlaw, the interim superintendent of Cumberland County Schools. The state officials will test the water from the elementary schools for Gen X, which has been in the news a lot lately in this area. Gen X, which has been linked in studies to testicular, pancreatic, and liver cancer in animals. It is not known whether those effects are the same in human beings. Gen X is used to make non-stick coatings on cookware and for other purposes. State officials started investigating the chemical after it was discovered in the Cape Fear River downstream from the Chemours plant, which is off North Carolina Highway 87 in Bladen County near the Cumberland County line. Tim Kinlaw, interim superintendent of the Cumberland County Schools, said that state officials are expected to be at the schools this morning, which is today, October 19, 2017. We will have our plumbing guys out there to assist them, said Tim Kinlaw. As a precaution, school officials took bottled water to the two elementary schools Wednesday for students to drink. We turned the water fountains off, said Tim Kinlaw, interim superintendent of Cumberland County Schools. We disabled the water fountains. All parents were notified about the situation at the two schools through an automated telephone messaging service on Tuesday. The two elementary schools are about 4.5 miles from the edge of the Chemours property. School officials expect to get results from the test in about 10 days, said Tim Kinlaw, interim superintendent of the Cumberland County Schools. We will keep bottled water out there, I guess that means out there in the hallways, available for all the students until we get satisfactory tests. And again, this was written by Steve Devane. He can be reached if you would like to talk to him about this article at sdevane@fayeobserver.com, or you may call Steve Devane at 910-486-3572. And Nancy, I've got to say that this thing is really starting to roll into one heck of a mess. What do you think?
I think you're right.
Yeah,
I never even suspected it.
Well, as we have read in previous articles, this dumping of harmful chemicals into the Cape Fear River has been going on since the 50s. You remember I read some of that? But I'd like to say that the time now is 10:29 in the morning on the 19th of October 2017, a Thursday morning that is. And I'd like to remind you that this is the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service. It is a United Way partner agency. We broadcast from the campus of Fayetteville State University, and our signal is carried by WUNC Chapel Hill. As a non-profit agency, we rely on public donations, and we request your support to continue our services. When you make your charitable donation, please keep the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service in mind. Our post office box number is 35029, Fayetteville, North Carolina 28303. If you have any questions or comments, please call us at 910-672-1600 or use the toll-free number 844-709-5656. Your radio hosts today are Clark and
Nancy,
and we are proud to serve you today.
now we're going to take some time to honor a Special Forces soldier remembered. He was always learning something, mastering something. This was written by Drew Brooks, the military editor for the Fayetteville Observer. During a life cut short by war, Staff Sergeant Brian Christopher Black lived as much as any man could. He was a Green Beret, medic, father, son, husband, chess master, cigar aficionado, coffee connoisseur, and master of many skills, including poker, carpentry, stock trading, and martial arts. But most of all, Black, age 35, was a man who never settled. Throughout the whole of his life, he strove to learn more, to do more, and to be better. With that as his legacy, friends and family who gathered to celebrate Black's life on Wednesday said the Special Forces soldier will, in a way, live forever in the hearts and minds of those who are lucky enough to know him. Speaking above Black's flag-draped coffin in the center of Northwood Temple Church in Fayetteville, they celebrated the life of the soldier who, 2 weeks ago, was one of 4 from the 3rd Special Forces Group to be killed while on a mission in West Africa. Black Sergeant LaDavid T. Johnson, Staff Sergeant Jeremiah W. Johnson, and Staff Sergeant Dustin M. Wright died after coming under attack October 4th while on patrol with Nigerian forces near the border of Niger and Mali. The attack was the deadliest for deployed Fort Bragg soldiers since July 14, 2010. According to military officials, the soldiers, part of an ongoing mission to North and West Africa undertaken by the 3rd Special Forces Group since 2015, were providing advice and assistance to Nigerian security force counter-terrorism operations. According to reports, the soldiers and their Nigerian partners were ambushed by a large force of enemy fighters. Black of Puyallup, Washington, lived in Fayetteville with his wife Michelle and sons Ezekiel and Isaac. He was assigned to the 2nd Battalion, 3rd Special Forces Group, and has served in the Army since 2009. He will be buried at Arlington National Cemetery at a later date. Paying respects. On Wednesday, more than 150 friends and family gathered to honor his life. Dozens of other supporters stood across the road from the church on Ramsey Street to pay their respects. Black's father, Hank Black, said the words of comfort and acts of kindness shown by family, friends, and strangers alike would be remembered forever. He said the family continued to mourn for Black as well as for the other 3 soldiers killed in Niger, and was continuing to pray for those who were wounded in the attack. Hank Black said his son only lived 35 years, but it was a full life with no wasted time. He was always learning something, mastering something, he said. According to the family, Black's competitive drive and strong will was obvious early in his life. As a 4th grader, Black was irritated when his brother won a trophy at a chess tournament. Instead of festering, he dedicated himself to mastering the game. By the time Black was in the 6th grade, he was among the best scholastic chess players in his home state of Washington and tied for 2nd in the nation in his grade. He also excelled at athletics. At a wrestling camp in high school, Black suffered a heat stroke that hospitalized him for 5 days. Once he was released from the hospital, he insisted on returning to the camp and finish his training. By his senior year at Puyallup High, family said Black was wrestling in the state championship. Hank Black said his son never stopped trying to improve himself. While others should, would, or could, Black did, he said. Black graduated from high school in 2000, simultaneously earning an associate's degree. He graduated from Central Washington University with a degree in business administration 2 years later. According to the family, Black helped pay for his schooling by buying and selling rare coins throughout high school and in college. After school, he was a ski instructor and part-time construction worker in Mammoth Lakes, California. A former roommate in California, Joe Donovan, said that when he first met Black, he was simultaneously playing 6 games of online poker and 6 games of chess. "What are you doing?" he recalled asking Black. "Right now winning," Black replied with a characteristic grin. Donovan spoke of how Black adored Michelle, whom he met in California, and how Black would walk around stunned, not believing his luck in the two finding each other. Live to the fullest. Black lived life to the fullest, Donovan said. He was a man of many talents, but he never boasted. Men of Brian's caliber are rare, he said. When we witness a life like that, it commands our attention and our respect. Several soldiers who served alongside Black also spoke. They included a sergeant first class who deployed to Niger with Black during his first deployment to the country 2 years ago. The soldier described how Black's intellect could be intimidating at times. In the rare instances where Black didn't know something, he would find a book and read overnight to learn as much as he could. Through the Army, he learned French and Arabic to better communicate with the Special Forces African partners. On his own, using an English to house the dictionary, he learned the local dialect spoken by those the soldiers worked with in Niger. A Special Forces captain who led Black's A-team on that deployment said Black became a local celebrity due to those efforts to connect and communicate with partners in Niger. Villagers would often gather to wait for Black or call his name, as though the soldiers walked through the camp or through the nearby villages, he said. "I'm not going to lie, but I was a little jealous of Brian's celebrity status," the captain said. Black loved teaching. He would go out of his way to explain concepts to others and share his devotion to learning and self-development. But most of all, Black was a loving father who saw a lot of himself in both of his sons, those who knew him said. The Special Forces sergeant said Black was a great person whose character spoke for itself. "You will always live in my heart and memories," he said. Another soldier, a first lieutenant, who attended Ranger School with Black, said he was a selfless leader and kind friend, a role model, and a leader who held others and himself to high standards. Hank Black said his son was never afraid of a new challenge. From his childhood to his last breath, he would set his sights on a goal and then achieve it. In the process, he would often improve the lives of those around him. Quoting the author A.A. Milne, Hank Black said, "How lucky I am to have something that makes saying goodbye so hard." He urged those in attendance to honor Black by following his example. "Never stop striving," he said. "Never stop improving." And this was written by the military editor Drew Brooks. And you may reach Drew at dbrooks@fayettevilleobserver.com, or you can call Drew. You have your pencil ready at 486-3567.
And here's a little article in the opinion piece of the paper. It is the Observer's, part of the Observer's editorial section. The Headline is The Commander-in-Chief's Most Solemn Duty. The President of the United States may well be the most powerful man in the world, but he is also the man with the most difficult job in the world. As he works through the final months of his first year in office, Donald Trump knows that truth well, especially for the three presidents who have held office since 9/11. The role of the Commander-in-Chief of the nation's armed forces may be the toughest part of all. After all, it is the President who makes the final determination of who will be sent into harm's way, and it is the President who thanks those who have served and consoles the families of the fallen. Those duties are not prescribed in the Constitution, but most presidents since George Washington have accepted the responsibility and passed it along as a tradition and solemn part of the job of the President of the United States of America. But this week, the responsibility for reaching out to grief-stricken families has gotten ugly, and it is unfortunate. A president who has eagerly surrounded himself with generals should rely more on their judgment in carrying out that duty. The president has handled the responsibility unevenly in the mercurial approach to life that is his signature. Sometimes the President, Donald Trump, responds promptly when a soldier is killed in action with a letter or a call. Sometimes he delays contact, as he did when 4 Green Berets from Fort Bragg's 3rd Special Forces Group were killed earlier this month in an ambush in Niger. And sometimes a family experiences what happened last summer when the 82nd Airborne Sergeant Jonathan Hunter was killed during a suicide bombing attack in Afghanistan. Sergeant Jonathan Hunter's widow, Whitney Hunter, got an outpouring of condolences from across the country. She got letters from senators, from governors, from members of Congress, and as she worked with the Casualty Assistance Officer making arrangements for her husband, she was told a call from President Trump was imminent. But President Trump never called. It felt like the importance was not as dire, like he wasn't acknowledged, she told a Fayetteville Observer reporter. Donald Trump is the president. It just kind of bothered me a little bit. What has happened since then is bothering people more than just a little bit. After waiting 2 weeks after the death of the Fort Bragg Special Forces soldiers, Donald Trump did make some phone calls. He did indeed. He called Sergeant LaDavid T. Johnson's widow, Myshia Johnson, as she was headed to the airport where her husband's body was being returned. She took the call on a speakerphone, and she was accompanied by Sergeant Johnson's mother and by Congresswoman Frederica S. Wilson, a Florida Democrat. Wilson said Trump told Mrs. Johnson that her husband must have known what he signed up for. Trump immediately denied what he said and said Representative Wilson was making it up. But Sergeant Johnson's mother, Kawanda Jones Johnson, said she heard the same thing. President Trump did disrespect my son and my daughter, and also me and my son, Jones Johnson said. She was crying the whole time, and when she hung up the phone, she looked at me and said, "The president did not even remember his name." And that is the hurting part, according to Sergeant Johnson's wife, Myshia Johnson. This came after the president also alleged that his predecessors did not contact the families of the fallen at all. That is a breathtaking falsehood. Throughout President Obama's 8 years in office, we saw countless times when President Obama contacted families to console them. And President George W. Bush was even more involved in helping grief-stricken families. After George W. Bush's presidency, we have learned even more about how personally he took responsibility for the fallen and how he would quietly visit the wounded in military hospitals. We have come to expect no less from our presidents. We are accustomed to seeing President Trump shatter traditions and take unconventional approaches to many aspects of his job. That is what his supporters wanted him to do. But we doubt that anyone wants him to upend the traditions of caring for the families of the fallen. And President Donald Trump should expect nothing but scorn if he continues to turn soldiers' deaths into a political circus. And that is the opinion piece from today's Observer's editorials. But I will say this, I did see the pictures of the soldiers, the 4 fallen soldiers. 3 of them were wearing green berets, and the other one was wearing a maroon beret. In my experience, being in the Army, is that there were 3 green berets and a support soldier there wearing the maroon beret. I'm not really sure why they keep saying that all 4 of them are green berets, and maybe I'm missing something here, but maybe they can straighten that out later on down the road. What do you think, Nancy?
I think you're absolutely right.
Well, I saw their pictures and I saw their headgear. 3 were green and 1 was maroon. And in order to be called a green beret, you have to have that type of headgear.
That's right.
At any rate, what have you got, Nancy?
Clark, did you ever see the movie, read the book To Kill a Mockingbird?
I read the book and I saw the movie.
Okay, me too. Well, guess what? Things are changing. Discomfort is really the point. This is our writer, Leonard Pitts, Jr. He says to make some people uncomfortable. That was the explanation Kenny Holloway, a school board official in Biloxi, Mississippi, gave the Sun-Herald newspaper last week for the board's decision to remove from its 8th grade curriculum a Pulitzer Prize-winning American classic, Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird. There is some language in the book that makes people uncomfortable, said Holloway. He said this like it was a bad thing. In a nation where some educational institutions now deem it their duty to offer safe spaces and trigger warnings to protect their students from vexatious language or behavior, like cartons protect eggs and bubble wrap protects china, maybe it is. So I beg your pardon for the heresy that follows, because with pure hearts and noble intentions, these educators are doing nothing less than presiding over what I will call the stupidification and wimpification of this country. Having liberated the American mind from the tyranny of facts, we now seek to liberate it from the bother of contending with difficult words or ideas. Make some people uncomfortable, he says, by which he means the word N, the N word. And yes, it is offensive. Indeed, if you are not African American, you may have trouble appreciating just how obnoxious the N word is. But it is also wholly appropriate to Lee's moralistic tale. They're talking about To Kill a Mockingbird, set during the Great Depression, of a 6-year-old white girl in the Deep South, watching her attorney father defend a black man unjustly accused of raping a white woman. When one of the locals tries without success to goad her father into a brawl, should the dialogue read, "Too proud to fight? You African-loving BD? Let's be serious. I am reminded of recent email exchanges with readers angry over NFL players kneeling during the national anthem to protest police brutality and racial oppression. These readers argued that protests should not make anyone, here's that word again, uncomfortable. One man said protests should unify and educate. Maybe that makes sense in a color-coordinated Pepsi commercial with Kendall Jenner, but it has nothing to do with reality. Did the civil rights marchers seek to unify with Bull Connor's dogs and fire hoses in Birmingham? Did the colonists seek to educate when they committed the anti-government vandalism called the Boston Tea Party? No! They were raising their voices, poking a stick in the eye of their oppressors. They were making them uncomfortable. We should be grateful they did. And we should ask those uncomfortable people in Biloxi and elsewhere, where did you get the idea you should be sheltered from history? What made you think you had an expectation of being shielded from truth? Who told you you had a right never to be made ill at ease? Yes, I recognize the possibility, in fact, the probability, that some of those discomforted by Lee's book are African American. It makes no difference. In literature, as in protest, the audience's discomfort is often a sign the message is being received. It can offer an invaluable opportunity to consider, reconsider, debate, teach, learn, reflect, and grow. Or it can be an excuse to run and hide. In a nation where ignorance masquerades as authenticity and the ability to think deeply and critically on difficult subjects has been mollycoddled into near oblivion, it is often too late, the latter. So I have no sympathy for those delicate folks in Biloxi. Mockingbird is a seminal text of the American experience. Yes, it makes some people uncomfortable. That's the whole point. Now you can reach Leonard Pitts Jr. Remember, don't forget he was the winner of the 2004 Pulitzer Prize for commentary. And Leonard is also a columnist for the Miami Herald. You may write him there at 3511 Northwest 91st Avenue, Doral, Florida, 33172. And readers, you may write to him via the email at lpitts@miamiherald.com.
A White Lake man was charged with 5 break-ins. In Elizabethtown, a White Lake man is accused of breaking into 2 fire departments and 3 homes in Bladen County in the last month. Jordan Thomas Jernigan, age 27, of Tyner Drive, was charged Tuesday with 5 counts each of larceny of a firearm and possession of a stolen firearm, 3 counts each of breaking and entering, larceny and possessing stolen property, 2 counts of misdemeanor injury to personal property, and a count of attempted larceny. All the break-ins were reported in October, a Bladen County Sheriff's Office release said. Jordan Thomas Jernigan is accused of breaking into the Bay Tree Fire Department on North Carolina Highway 41 West in Harrells and the Hickory Grove Fire Department on North Carolina Highway 210 West in Garland. He is accused of breaking into a home on Hawks Drive in Bay Tree Lakes, one on the 14,000 block of US 701 North in Garland, and a home on the 10,000 block of North Carolina Highway 41 East near Harrells. Investigators have been able to recover most of the property stolen in these cases and hope to recover the remainder of the property this week, said Sheriff James A. McVicker. We have the names of the other individuals involved in these crimes and other crimes, and we will be making additional arrests this week. James A. McVicker, the sheriff, also said, we expect to charge Jernigan with other charges this week. His bail was set at $400,000. This article was written by Nancy McCleary. If you'd like to talk to her about this article and Jordan Thomas Jernigan, the thief that did all these things, you can email her at mcleary@fayeobserver.com, or you may call Nancy at 910-486-3568.
Okay, let's look at the letters to the Observer. This letter is our rogue politicians. This is written by William J. Lunsford in Fayetteville. I have concluded that our federal and state governments are no longer of the people, for the people, and by the people. The checks and balances set forth in our Constitution that existed in federal, state, and local governments have eroded to the extent that our politicians have become rogues, self-serving, government untouchables, who are not accountable to the citizens. They do not abide by the same laws and judicial punishment for infractions like the vast majority of ordinary citizens. To correct this arrogant and flagrant disregard of our laws, we need to illuminate obvious conflicts of interest. First, elected officials should not be allowed to receive bonuses and give themselves salary raises without a majority popular vote. Too often, they report financial deficits in the same year that they give themselves bonuses and raises. Our elected officials should be mandated by law to use the same government programs they administer, Medicare and Social Security. Then there would be incentive to properly manage these programs. Eliminate the term white-collar crime, applied to most politicians and big money crimes. These violators of the law should serve their sentences in the same prisons as ordinary nonviolent criminals. They would take out laws and our laws more seriously if they faced the same consequences as ordinary citizens. All judicial oversight committees and special prosecutors should be administered by federal and state Supreme Courts. Politicians investigating other politicians will never produce justice. The separation of powers of our three branches of government have become so eroded that it has created government untouchables. By William J. Lunsford in Fayetteville.
The time now is 10:59, and I would like to remind you that this is the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service. It is a United Way partner agency. We broadcast from the campus of Fayetteville State University, and our signal is carried by WUNC Chapel Hill. As a nonprofit agency, we rely on public donations, and we request your support to continue our services. When you make your charitable donation, please keep the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service in mind. Our post office box number is 35029, Fayetteville, North Carolina 28303. If you have any questions or comments, please call the toll-free number 844-709-5656.
And now we're going to the obituaries and news. For the death notices, following deaths have been reported. See upcoming editions of the Fayetteville Observer for complete obituary information. In Cumberland County, Larry Jr. Dickens, age 59, of Fayetteville, Colvin Funeral Home and Crematory. Lucinda Priscilla Clark, age 54, of Fayetteville, Colvin Funeral Home and Crematory. Robert Louis Boston, of Hope Mills, Herring Funeral Care and Cremations. Ethel M. Edwards, age 83, of Fayetteville, the Wiseman Mortuary. Moving to the Cape Fear region, Richard S. Barnett, age 27, of Aurora, Colorado, formerly of Sansom County, Dafford Funeral Home in Dunn. Alma Lucille Butler Knight, age 91, of Pinehurst, formerly of Laurinburg, Richard Bowles Funeral Services. Minister William J. Moore, age 76, of Fair Bluff, S&L Funeral Home in Fair Bluff. Cloman Randolph McNeil, age 92, of Maxton, Richard Bowles Funeral Service. Stephanie B. McLeod, 48, of Lumberton, Unity Funeral Services of Fayetteville. Sergeant First Class Johnny A. White II, 35, of Rayford, Rogers and Breeze Funeral Home. Jerome Swindell, age 61, of Wagram, Purcell Funeral Home of Laurinburg. Going to Cumberland County, Juanita McOrdale Smith, Juanita Smith Nana, age 96, of Carborough, North Carolina, formerly of Fayetteville, died Thursday, October 12th, 2017, surrounded by her family. Funeral services will be held Saturday, October 21st, 2017, at 1 p.m. at Jernigan Warren Funeral Home in the chapel, with burial following in Lafayette Memorial Park on Ramsey Street. The family will receive friends at the funeral home from 11:30 to 1 p.m. prior to the service. Gilbert Burgess of Fayetteville, owner of Burgess TV Service, passed on October 12th at the North Carolina State Veterans Nursing Home. He was 80 years old. The memorial service will be October 21st at the Kingdom Hall of Jehovah's Witness, 3265 Cumberland Road. Service will commence at 2 p.m. Mary Lou Wade. Mary Lou Wade, age 66, of Fayetteville, died Saturday, October 14th, 2017. The funeral will be Saturday at 1 p.m. Wiseman Mortuary Chapel. The viewing will be at the funeral home Friday, 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. and the burial will be at Rockfish Memorial Park by the Wiseman Mortuary. William P. Knowles. William P., better known as Bill Knowles, son of the late Willie and Mattie Knowles, passed away October 17, 2017. A private service will be held at a later date. Condolences may be sent to 129 Village Farm Road, Columbia, South Carolina, 29223. The family would like to thank the NC Veterans Home staff and the many employees who gave care to our brother. James Edward Skipper from Fayetteville. James Edward Skipper, age 71, of Fayetteville, died Tuesday, October 17, 2017. The funeral will be Saturday at 2:30 p.m. Pinecrest Funeral and Cremation services in Hope Mills, with a visitation at the Pinecrest Funeral and Cremation services Saturday at 1:30 to 2:30 p.m. and the burial will be at the Culbreth Cemetery. And Lorraine Marie Honecker, Hope Mills. Lorraine Marie Honecker, age 53, of Hope Mills, died Monday, October 16th, 2017. There will be a memorial Friday at 1 p.m. Pinecrest Funeral and Cremation services in Hope Mills.
In the region and elsewhere, Elmer Holmes, age 93, of Lumberton, passed away Tuesday, 17 October 2017, at Southeastern Hospice House in Lumberton. A time of visitation will take place prior to the service on Saturday, 21 October 2017, from 10 to 11 a.m. at Floyd Mortuary and Crematory Incorporated. Following the visitation, a funeral service will be held at 11 a.m. in the chapel with Reverend Rick Astle officiating. The burial will follow at the Gardens of Faith Cemetery in Lumberton. In lieu of flowers, memorials may be made to Southeastern Hospice House, located at 1100 Pine Run Drive, Lumberton, North Carolina 28358, or you may donate to the charity of your choice. Online condolences may be made by visiting this website, www.floydmortuary.net. Delia B. Freeman of Bolton died Tuesday, 17 October 2017. The funeral will be Monday at 3 p.m. at the New Hope Baptist Church in Bolton. The visitation will be at the Peacock Funeral Home Sunday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. The burial will be at the New Hope Baptist Church Cemetery. The Peacock Funeral Home and Crematory has been entrusted with those services. After 87 years of life filled with love of God, family, and country, W. Odell Mann of Willow Spring passed on to his eternal reward on Wednesday, 18 October 2017. A funeral service will be held at 12:30 p.m. on Saturday, 21 October 2017 at Evangel Pentecostal Holiness Church, located at 201 Meadow Drive in Fuquay Varina. The family will receive family and friends from 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. prior to the service. Interment will be at the Green Lawn Memorial Gardens. Flowers are welcome, or donations may be made to the charity of your choice. These arrangements have been made by the Thomas Funeral Home, and condolences may be left at the the funeral home or at thomasfuneral.com. Albert Norris Dinsmore, age 90, of St. Paul's, died Sunday, 15 October 2017. A visitation is scheduled for Friday, 20 October 2017 from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. at St. Paul's United Methodist Church, with a memorial service in the church following at 11 a.m. with the Reverend Bruce Skipper officiating. The burial will follow in Gardens of Faith Cemetery. The arrangements have been made by McNeil Mackey Funeral Home. Timothy T. Inch, former finance director for the city of Lumberton, died peacefully at home, surrounded by his family on 15 October 2017. View the full obituary and send messages to the family at www.myrtlebeachfuneralhome.com. And a note here is that Timothy T. Inch was living in Little River, South Carolina at the time, I believe, of his death. Mrs. Julia Pinkston Faircloth, age 60, of Rayford, passed away on Saturday, 16 October 2017. The family will receive friends from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. tonight, Thursday, 19 October 2017, at Rogers and Brees Funeral Home. A memorial service will be held at 2 p.m. 20 October 2017 at the funeral home with the Reverend Archie Behringer officiating. These services have been entrusted to Rogers and Brees Funeral Home. David L. Yount, or Yount, age 76, of Southern Pines, died Tuesday, 17 October 2017. The memorial will be on Saturday at 11 a.m. at the Page Memorial United Methodist Church, and the Bowles Funeral Home of Southern Pines has been entrusted with those funeral services. In Baltimore, Maryland, formerly of Aberdeen, North Carolina, Haywood Stevens of Baltimore, Maryland, died Friday on the 13th of October 2017. The funeral will be Friday at 11 a.m. Sand Hill United Church of Christ in Aberdeen. Visitation will be at Sand Hill United Church of Christ on Friday from 11 a.m. from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. The burial will be at the Berkeley Cemetery in Aberdeen. Jones and Little has been entrusted with those services. Laura Jeanette Powers, age 63, of St. Paul's, died Tuesday, 17 October 2017. The funeral will be this Sunday at 2 p.m. at the St. Paul's Presbyterian Church, and visitation will be at the McNeil Mackey Funeral Home of St. Paul's on Saturday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. The burial will be at the Cross Creek Cemetery, and the McNeil Mackey Funeral Home of St. Paul's has been entrusted with those services. London Cass, L.C. Carter, age 75, of Evergreen, died Sunday, 15 October 2017. The funeral will be on Saturday at 11 a.m. at the Worthington Funeral Home. The visitation will be at the Worthington Funeral Home Friday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And the burial will be at the Chadbourn Memorial. Worthington Funeral Home has been entrusted with those funeral services. And last, John Evans Lewis, age 71, of Elizabethtown, died Saturday, 14 October 2017. The funeral will be Friday, that's tomorrow, at 2 p.m. at the Baldwin Branch Missionary Baptist Church. The viewing will be on Thursday at 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. That's today now. 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. and the burial will be at the Baldwin Branch Cemetery. F.W. Newton Services has been entrusted with the funeral services.
Well, I think we need to go to Billy Graham for some comfort.
Yes, we do.
Peter, a prime example of God's desire to forgive us. Billy Graham. Question, does God ever give us a second chance? I've made a lot of dumb mistakes in the last few years, and I know I need to get on a different road. Sometimes I wonder if God has given up on me and nothing is ever going to change. From K.Y. Answer. God not only gives us a second chance, as you put it, but He wants to give us that second chance. Let this verse from the Bible sink deep into your mind and heart. But you are a forgiving God, gracious and compassionate, slow to anger, and abounding in love. From the book of Nehemiah, chapter 9, verse 17. Do you remember Peter, who was one of Jesus' closest disciples? As Jesus' enemies grew closer, Peter boldly announced that even if everyone else abandoned Jesus, he never would. But after Jesus was arrested, Peter was asked by some bystanders if he was one of Jesus' followers, and he forcefully denied it, not once, but 3 times. Afterward, the Bible says, Peter went outside and wept bitterly. From the book of Luke, chapter 22, verse 62. But instead of fleeing or renouncing his belief in Jesus, Peter rejoined the other disciples, and after his resurrection, Jesus not only forgave him, but commissioned him to join the other disciples in spreading the gospel. Later, Peter forcefully declared, "Salvation is found in no one else, for there is no other name under heaven given to mankind by which we must be saved." From the book of Acts, chapter 4, verse 12. Don't be a slave to the past, and don't believe the devil's lie that God doesn't love you. Instead, by a simple prayer of faith, ask Christ to come into your life. Then make it your goal to strengthen your relationship with Him every day as you pray and read God's Word and learn from other believers. Your life will never be the same. Alright, readers, you can write to the Reverend Billy Graham at Billy Graham Evangelistic Association, 1 Billy Graham Parkway, Charlotte, North Carolina, 28201, or you may call Billy at 877-2-GRAHAM, and the website for the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association is at billygraham.org. The Tribune Media Services.
And now, a couple of questions for Dear Abby. The headline here is Extreme Hoarding Poses Risk to Mother's House and Her Health. Dear Abby, my 36-year-old son lives with me, which benefits both of us. I am retired, and his income helps immensely. But the problem I'm having is that he hoards garbage. And it is terrible, Abby. There is garbage on his bed, garbage under his bed, garbage in his closet, garbage that has reached the ceiling and other parts of his room in my house. And this has been going on many years. Well, 2 years ago, just to give you an example, Abby, I filled up 2 large garbage bags to throw out. And believe me, Abby, it did not make a dent into that hoard of garbage. When he got home from his job, he was furious, and I don't know how he discovered the garbage that was thrown out because it's everywhere. But he decided that because I'd done that, he deducted $50 from the rent money I received from him because he felt I needed to have some consequences for for what I did by throwing out his garbage. Well, I realized then how serious of a problem this is. I know it's a health hazard as well as a fire hazard, and I am at my wit's end, Abby. I understand this has to do with loss, and he has had many, including a dad who left when I was pregnant. There has been no contact with his father during his lifetime. So please, Abby, please help. Signed, my son is a hoarder. Dear, my son is a hoarder. Your son is suffering from a mental disorder. There is help for it, if he is willing to admit that he needs help. A licensed mental health professional could help him understand why he is hoarding garbage and motivate him to change the habits that have led up to his garbage hoarding. There are also medications that can lessen his compulsion to hoard garbage. However, it will not happen unless you put your foot down. After all, he's been living with you for 2 years at least that I know of based on your letter, and I'm surprised, personally, that it took you 2 years to figure out that he's got a problem with garbage. But at any rate, inform your son that what he is doing is a health and safety hazard and a risk you will no longer tolerate in your house, regardless how much rent money he gives you. After all, he is 36 years old, and they call those people boomerang children. Tell him that unless he gets help, he will no longer able to live under your roof and rules. And the last question for Abby. I am a 68-year-old male reader, and I'm married, and I have many friends and acquaintances. And my best friend, Brent, has a longtime girlfriend by the name of Judy. We are with all the time. And there is also, let me add, another couple, Tom and Sue, that we like very much. Well, the 6 of us that had gone out and had what I thought was a great time. But when I proposed another get-together, Judy said that she felt Sue was condescending and unfriendly to her. I have never in my life experienced this with Sue, and I did not observe anything like that when we were all together, especially at a restaurant enjoying ourselves. But I suppose I could be oblivious to all of this kind of thing going on behind and in front of my back. But the problem is, there are times it is awkward not to invite Tom and Sue, as well as the fact that I have fun with both of them and would like them to be there. Is there something I can do to change this awkward situation? Signed, Awkward in the East. Dear Awkward in the East, do not get into a squabble between those 2 women. If Judy prefers not to socialize with Sue, she may not accept an invitation if she knows Sue will be present, which is her privilege. Because you, like both couples, see them separately until this whole shenanigan thing blows over, if it ever does. If you are asked why the dynamic has changed, tell Brent the truth about what Judy told you so he won't think it has anything to do with him. And now a final comment from Abby. Dear readers, today marks the celebration of Diwali, the Hindu festival of lights. It spiritually signifies the victory of light over darkness, good over evil, knowledge over ignorance, and hope over despair. My best wishes to all of you out there in Readerland that celebrate Diwali, the Hindu festival of lights. If you would like to write Abby, you can do so by getting an envelope and putting this down. Dear Abby, Post Office Box 69440, Los Angeles, California 90069, or you can write her online at dearabbey.com.
And let's go to the horoscopes. They're always a lot of fun. By our buddy Stella Wilder. Now, if you're born today, you are perhaps the most friendly and sociable individual under your sign. And you will go out of your way to ensure that those around you are getting the most out of life. This is not to say that you do not, at times, enjoy being alone. Indeed, you do, especially when you are in the planning stages of some big endeavor. You are not one to make mistakes in public, and you will engage in the project in private. All right, Libra, September 23rd through October 22nd. What you do for another today will also benefit you, but not in any direct way that you will immediately notice. Give it some time. Scorpio, October 23 to November 21st. Scorpio, what you recently forgot, you're likely to remember today, thanks to someone else's actions that spur your recollection. Sagittarius, come on, Saggy, November 22nd to December 21st. Your ability to do what others cannot isn't likely to fail you today, and you can give your reputation a boost as a result. Capricorn, December 22nd through January 19th. You cannot complete an assigned task until someone else comes through with his or her part of that job. Aquarius, January 20th to February 18th. The water sign. You can fill your available hours today with efforts that benefit someone else more directly than yourself, and you know who it is. Pisces, the fish, February 19th through March 20th. There is a time and place for everything. Today you will be the one to remind others of what is appropriate and what is not. Aries, March 21st through April 19th. Aries, much depends on your ability to see things in a straightforward manner. Don't let anyone tell you your perspective is skewed. Taurus, that's me, April 20th to May 20th. Taurus the bull. You'll want to express yourself as clearly as possible today. Bend your words or meaning, and you'll be facing an inquiry very soon. Gemini, May 21st through June 20th. Gemini, are you in charge today? If so, you'll have enough on your plate to fill your waking hours. And if not, you must do as you're told. Cancer, it's you, Clarky. June 21st through July 22nd. What you reveal today is sure to satisfy some, but others might misinterpret you and try to fight you in some manner. And Leo the Lion, July 23rd through August 22nd. You may feel, Leo, that you are running on empty, but you have just enough in the tank today to get your most important jobs done. And Virgo, August 23 through September 22nd. Word from a family member has you relaxing at last, knowing that things have worked out for the best so far.
The time now is 11:29 in the morning on Thursday, 19 October 2017. And I would like to remind you that this is the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service, a United Way partner agency. We broadcast from the campus of Fayetteville State University, and our signal is carried by WUNC Chapel Hill. As a nonprofit agency, we rely on public donations. We request your support to continue our services. When making charitable donations, please keep the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service in mind. Our post office box number is 35029, Fayetteville, North Carolina, 28303. If you have any questions or comments, please call 910-672 844-1600 or call the toll-free number 844-709-5656. Your radio hosts today are Clark and
Nancy.
We are proud to serve you today. And now, the time is 11:30 in the morning. And it's time for the Tongue Twisters. Yes, that's right. Joe and Teresa Graydon of the People's Pharmacy
Yay!
has a couple of questions and some answers for the people that are writing these questions. But the headline of this is Antidepressants Produce Long-Lasting Sexual Dysfunction / Problems.
Uh-oh.
This is hosted by Joe and Teresa Graydon. Question. I am 50 years old and I am a proud male. I was on fluoxetine for a year and have had lingering side effects in terms of low to no sexual interest and difficulty reaching an orgasm. It's been almost 2 years since I went off fluoxetine of fluoxetine. But since I went off the drug, I am worried that these sexual dysfunction effects are going to be permanent. I am trying to figure out how a relationship will be possible. In the meantime, I lost my marriage. Answer. Sexual difficulties are common side effects of SSRI, which, according to the Google man, SSRIs are selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. And that is an antidepressant like fluoxetine, which is commonly called Prozac. This information came from Drug, Healthcare, and Patient Safety, dated 9 September 2010. Occasionally, effects such as genital numbing, loss of libido, and trouble achieving an orgasm may last for months or even years after the person stops taking that medication. That little bit of information came from the Sexual Medicine Reviews, 1 August 2017. We are very sorry to learn that your marriage suffered as a consequence of your side effects that you mentioned. Unfortunately, there is no definitive antidote for post-SSRI sexual dysfunction. And remember, SSRI stands for selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors like Celax, Prozac, and Luvox, and Paxil, or Zoloft. A whole bunch of those drugs out there may cause you to have long-lasting sexual dysfunction. Question. I was fascinated to read that the sauna use can help prevent high blood pressure. But what if you already have high blood pressure? I've always heard that if you have heart disease or hypertension, you should avoid the sauna. So what's the real story? Answer. A long-term study of Finnish men has shown that those who use the sauna almost daily have lower blood pressure than those people who use it less frequently. That comes to us from the American Journal of Hypertension, dated 13 June 2017. Previous reports from this study have shown that frequent sauna bathers are less likely to die of heart disease than those who use it weekly or less often. That comes to us from JAMA Internal Medicine, dated April 2015. These men were also less likely than sporadic sauna bathers to be diagnosed with dementia. This came to us from Age and Aging, 1 March 2017. Although people with heart disease usually are told to avoid steam baths or saunas. Research shows that saunas benefit blood pressure as much as exercise in people with high blood pressure. That information came from the Journal of Clinical Hypertension dated August 2012. If you have high blood pressure, please discuss your idea with your doctor. And of course, our guide to blood pressure treatment offers a number of ways to help control hypertension. Anyone who would like a copy of blood pressure treatment, please send $3 in a check or money order with a long number 10 stamped with 70 cents, of course, a self-addressed envelope to Graydon's People's Pharmacy, number B-67, P.O. Box 52027, Durham, North Carolina, 2027. I'll give you that zip again. It's 27717-2027. You may also download the blood pressure treatment guide for just $2 from our website, www.peoplespharmacy.com. And finally, the last question for Joe and Teresa Graydon of the People's Pharmacy is, my wife had been having widespread muscle pain for weeks, and I suggested to my wife to take some of my magnesium L-threonate. We got some of those pills out of my pill organizer, and she took them. And guess what? Her muscle pain went away. Given that success, we started to add some to her box of meds and vitamins. We discovered that she had taken 3 of my L-methylfolate pills instead. I searched the web for deplete folic acid and found a plethora of medicines that deplete folic acid. 4 or 5 of her medications were listed, such as fluticasone A, aspirin, metformin, diuretics, and other meds deplete folic acid. Luckily, the L-methylfolate we had on hand worked for her. The answer is, folic acid is a crucial B vitamin that can be depleted by many medicines that include aspirin, NSAIDs, anticonvulsants, methotrexate, metformin, diuretics, acid-suppressing drugs, oral contraceptives, and corticosteroids like fluticasone A and prednisone. Your wife's doctor should check her folate levels after all of this. If you have a question for Joe and Teresa Graydon, you may ask them via their website at peoplespharmacy.com.
All right, out of the pharmacy. Here we have Jonathan Drew and Gary D. Robertson from the Associated Press. A deal would expand transgender protections. Going to Raleigh, Governor Roy Cooper launched a 2-part strategy Wednesday that could end protracted litigation over the state's so-called bathroom bill and its replacement, while expanding LGBT protections lawmakers aren't inclined to endorse. Plaintiffs who had sued the state claiming discrimination asked a judge to approve a settlement with the governor that would ensure that they can use restrooms corresponding to their gender identity in facilities run by executive branch agencies that oversee the environment, transportation, and Medicaid, among others. Cooper, a Democrat, also issued an executive order prohibiting cabinet-level departments under his control, including their contractors, from discriminating on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity. Plaintiffs said that if the judge agrees with the consent decree's interpretation of the law, they would drop claims against the governor and other defendants. But Republican legislative leaders are likely to oppose the consent decree that essentially rescinds a key part of a compromise law hammered out with Cooper in March. Legislative leaders in the state university system, also defendants in the case, didn't sign the proposed consent decree. Spokespeople for Senate Leader Phil Berger and House Speaker Tom Moore said their offices needed more time to review Cooper's actions.
And now, nation and world news in brief. In Miami, 14 school cafeteria workers are hospitalized after a gas leak. Authorities say 14 employees at a Florida school were hospitalized following a possible gas leak in the school's cafeteria. The Miami Herald reports that the Miami Springs Middle School workers noticed a suspicious smell and began complaining of dizziness and nausea around noon Wednesday. Miami-Dade Fire Rescue Lieutenant Felipe Lay says 17 fire rescue teams, including a hazmat crew, responded, and the workers' conditions were not immediately reported. However, Miami-Dade Fire Rescue Lieutenant Felipe Lay says carbon monoxide was detected in the cafeteria before giant fans were brought in. School officials believe the cafeteria's propane system may have malfunctioned. And in Indianapolis, Pence's brother launches his run for Indiana House seat. Gregory Pence, one of Mike Pence's older brothers, launched a campaign Wednesday for the Eastern Indiana congressional seat that the vice president and former governor represented for nearly 12 years. A campaign announcement video touts Greg Pence as a Republican who believes in fiscal responsibility, the sanctity of life, and our Second Amendment rights. I'm going to fight to help President Donald Trump help our district, said Greg Pence in his video. That is why I'm running for the United States Congress. The district's current congressman, Republican Luke Messer, is running for Senate. In Paris, security law that replaces state of emergency passes. France's parliament has adopted a sweeping counterterrorism law that replaces a 2-year-old state of emergency and is meant to give police more tools to fight extremism. The Senate voted Tuesday 244 to 22 to approve the bill. President Emmanuel Macron's first major security measure. The legislation enjoyed broad support, although lawmakers made amendments to respond to criticism that the original version would infringe on individual liberties. That law gives law enforcement greater authority to conduct searches, to close religious facilities, and to restrict the movements of people suspected of extremist ties. And last, in Geneva, Swiss executive asked voters to reject paid paternity leave. And I believe that's going to ruffle some feathers over
You know
there.
it will.
Oh yes. Oh, all of Europe is into the paid paternity leave. Switzerland's executive body is advising voters to reject a ballot initiative that would grant new fathers at least 20 days of paid paternity leave. The 7-member federal council argues, says Switzerland, should instead improve options for child care and let business and labor leaders iron out those issues. The council argues that the cost of extended paid paternity leave would imperil economic competitiveness. A government statement Wednesday estimated the 20-day proposal would cost about 420 million Swiss francs, or the equivalent of $427 million a year.
Wow.
Yeah, and Nancy, a lot of people don't realize that out there, that the military has a 10-day paternity leave. Did you know that?
No.
Of course, because you're in the military, you're going to get paid anyway. But they get 10 days of paternity leave, and it's not charged to their leave account.
Wow.
Yeah, so you don't have to take leave, take it. You just get 10 days if your wife gives birth. Isn't that something? What's next?
All right, what's next is the NFL won't change the anthem policy. The Associated Press tells us in New York, in the face of fan unrest and accusations from the president about the league being unpatriotic, the NFL is not, I say not, changing its national anthem policy to require players to stand. Commissioner Roger Goodell and several owners said Wednesday at the league's fall meetings that altering the policy language from should stand to must stand was not discussed. New York Giants owner John Mara noted that the Cowboys' Jerry Jones spoke at length to other owners about the anthem issue. Jones has said any Dallas player who doesn't stand for the Star-Spangled Banner would not be playing. Goodell reiterated that the league and its 32 clubs believe everyone should stand for the national anthem. It's an important part of our policy and the game. It's important to honor our flag and our country, and I think our fans expect it. Asked about any owners who threatened discipline for players who didn't stand, Goodell said the owners didn't discuss it. Wasn't necessary, he said. We had a real focus on making sure all of our teams understood the kind of dialogue that took place and the kind of things they were interested in getting support. I think we all have mutual interests, Eagles safety Malcolm Jenkins said. I think players are a part of this league, so we want to make sure the quality of product that we put out on the field is great. But at the same time, we have a responsibility to communities that we live in, the communities that we come from, and so I think we all share that interest and really talk more in collaboration than as you against you type of situation. Okay, and if you want to see the 2018 draft set, it will be in today's paper, the Fayetteville Observer, on page B4.
And now, breaking news, death cleaning. It is the Swedish day to declutter.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, we're going to the Washington Post. This was written by Jura Koncius. If your family does not want your stuff when you are alive, then they sure don't want your stuff when you're dead. And that's the blunt assessment of yet another self-help author from abroad who is trying to get Americans who have an addiction to collecting and storage units to clean up their acts. This kind of, I guess, coincides with that Dear Abby
Sure
thing
does.
where the guy hoards garbage. At any rate, that's the blunt assessment of yet another self-help author. The latest volley in the decluttering business comes from Stockholm, where 80-ish artist Margareta Magnus' son has just published a slim yet sage volume called The Gentle Art of Swedish Death Cleaning. And this book will be published in America in January. That's just, what, 2.5 months away?
Right.
Nancy? November, yeah, While Marie Kondo gave us strict instructions to keep only the things that spark joy in the life-changing magic of tidying up, the Japanese art of decluttering and organizing. Magnuson's book is straightforward and unsentimental, but with just a tad bit, just a little tiny bit of humor in the book. The main message from this mother of 5 is, take responsibility for your items and do not leave them as a burden for family and friends. because it is not fair. Magnuson says you can keep things that evoke good memories, but there are no hard and fast rules, such as folding your remaining P-shirts to stand upright in your drawers, as dictated by the KonMari method. Remember, the KonMari method, she is the one that wrote The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up, Japanese art. The concept of decluttering before you die is a process called "dostandening," which is the Swedish word for death and cleaning. It's part of the Swedish culture. Karen Olof's daughter, age 51, the Swedish ambassador to the United States of America, says her mother and her father, who are in their 80s, are in the midst of it back home in Sweden. My parents and their friends are death cleaning, and we all kind of joke about it, says Olof's daughter. It's almost like a biological thing to do. Olof's daughter says part of Swedish culture is living independently and never being a burden to anyone. How you keep your home is a statement of that. Magnuson, who has moved 17 times, says women often end up doing the death cleaning. And after her husband died, she had to declutter their house, and it took her almost 1 year to declutter. And she downsized to a 2-room apartment. Although it was overwhelming at the time, she says, she is glad she did it herself, as her husband would have wanted her to keep everything and her kids would have disagreed about on what to keep and what to toss. So she did it on her own, without consulting her children. Now she continues, as she lives on in this small 2-room apartment that she downsized to, she continues to declutter. Magnuson suggests that 65 years of age is a good time to start decluttering or death cleaning, but the process is freeing at any age you do it. A few of her tips: do not start with your photographs, as you will get bogged down in your memories and then you will never accomplish anything. Make sure you keep a book of passwords for your heirs. Give away nice things you don't want to do as gifts, such as china or table linens or books, as opposed to buying new items. Keep a separate box of things that matter only to you and label it to be tossed upon your death. And it's okay to keep a beloved stuffed animal or two. Magnuson and one of her daughters filmed a video in which she talks about why she decluttered her home and how it's not a sad process, but it's more of a relief. Her daughters ask whether her mom would help her begin death cleaning. They go to a storage locker overflowing with luggage and clothes and blankets topped by a garden gnome. Oh my God, what are you going to do with all this crap? Her mother says in perfect English, taking a look around, and they discuss how long it's going to take to declutter. You are never ready with your death cleaning because you don't know when you are going to die, Magnuson says. So it goes on, and when you are dead, then it stops, and then they all agree. Finally, Magnuson says, and there's a picture of Margareta Magnuson, and her book is called The Gentle Art of Swedish Death Cleaning. And the headline says, one should take responsibility for one's belonging and not leave your belongings as a burden to your family and friends. What do you think about that, Nancy?
Well, that's true, I guess.
You think so?
But you know what? I think you should be able to keep what I would want to keep everything to remind me of the person.
Yeah, that's what I would think. But this is very, I would say this whole thing here, this article is very controversial.
I agree.
Because I wouldn't think that all the things that when someone dies is a burden.
Not me.
I wouldn't think that, but maybe some people do.
I don't know. It doesn't sound right to me.
Doesn't it? What have you got, Nancy?
Well, let's go and look at life with Martha and Snoop. Forget the handmade wreaths. The style maven now hangs with rappers and makes weed jokes. By Maura Judkis from the Washington Post. Here are some of the things Martha Stewart has done. On her new show with Snoop Dogg, she has worn a blinged out cheese grater on a chain around her neck. She has drunk out of what can only be described as a pimp cup. She has tasted a stoner recipe for a pizza omelet. She has dropped Escoffier. She has not flinched when Rick Ross said to her audience, "I want to make some noise for Martha, because baby got back." When did Martha Stewart go from being America's most earnest homemaker, ready at a moment's notice to spray paint silk flowers and shape them into wreaths, to being America's coolest grandma who makes weed jokes and hangs out with Wiz Khalifa?
Well, I think, Nancy, she turned that way because right after she got out of prison, probably.
I think you're absolutely right.
What else did she say?
Her show with Snoop is a very particular cultural exchange between two people of seemingly disparate backgrounds, which is a thing America could use more of these days, frankly. Martha tries on a grill, shotguns a beer, and glubs out of a 40-ounce bottle of malt liquor this session. Snoop, meanwhile, has learned about lobster thermidor and croquembouche. She's taught me how to have better food etiquette, how to be more professional in the kitchen, Snoop said. I showed her a few things, the ghetto way of doing things, like this method for making bacon. Learned a lot about music from Snoop and our guests. He's extremely knowledgeable and amusing. We are email pals.
Yeah, being an email pal is very important, right?
It is.
And you know, Snoop Dogg is something else. A lot of people don't really know a whole lot about Snoop Dogg. But hasn't he made movies?
He makes good music.
Oh, he makes good, but he's a rapper, isn't he?
Right.
Like a rap artist.
He's a rap artist.
Well, what we have here is a suspect in Maryland office shooting is apprehended. This was written by Juliet Linderman from the Associated Press. A man with a lengthy criminal past who showed up for work at a countertop company on Wednesday and shot 5 of his co-workers was arrested. 3 of them were killed and 2 critically wounded. Less than 2 hours later, Radi Labib Prince drove to a used car lot about 55 miles away in Wilmington, Delaware, and opened fire on a man with whom he had beefs in the past, and he wounded him, said the police. The shooting rampage set off a manhunt along the Interstate 95 Northeast corridor. Police cruisers were stationed in medians, and overhead highway signs displayed a description of Prince's sport utility vehicle and its Delaware license plate. The FBI assisted state and local authorities in the manhunt. Prince was apprehended a short time ago in Delaware by the ATF and allied law enforcement agencies. The Hartford County Sheriff's Office said tweeted in Maryland Wednesday night, "This is a person with no conscience," Wilmington police said. He is desperate right now. Authorities were not clear why Prince opened fire with a handgun on his colleagues. But what I would like to say that this concludes our broadcast of the Fayetteville Observer. The radio host of Ben Clark and
Nancy.
At 2 p.m., please listen to the Southern Pines pilot, and at 4 p.m. you can hear Off the Bookshelf. Additionally, you will hear a rebroadcast of today's Fayetteville Observer tonight at 9 p.m. We will now join the Raleigh Network for additional news of interest. We thank you for tuning us in, and we have enjoyed being with you this morning, and we wish for you to have a wonderful day. And don't forget The state fair is still open, so go and enjoy.
Bye now.
Hi, I'm Sharon Silcox, your host for Nutrition News. Every month I'll bring you the latest in nutrition research from respected sources, including Tufts Health and Nutrition Letter and the Nutrition Action Health Letter. Nutrition News airs the first Wednesday of each month at 4 p.m. and has been available as a podcast at trianglereadingservice.org. Healthy eating is a journey, not a destination. So join me on the journey to your good nutrition. Remember, give peas a chance.